We're presenting this evening for the first time an award to a fantastic person that we're all privileged to know. Because it's the inaugural award, we're going to be naming it after her. And from this point forward, if anybody receives this award, it will be named the Inky Meng Award for Resident Leadership. Inky Meng has 4 characteristics I'm going to talk about tonight. Now, I'm the kind of guy who, when I think about doing a presentation, my mind goes, okay, I'll pick 3 things and I can make whatever. I don't know what they are when I start, but that's the way I organize my thoughts, in 3s for presentations, and that was how I started to do this as well. But then, because Inky is so fantastic, I had to do 4. The things that make her exceptional aren't the fantastic, wonderful things that she and her husband Jack do in our community, although our community is so much better for all the work that they do. If you look at any major institution in town and then look at the plaque where the donors are recognized for the wonderful things that they've done, you'll see their names prominently featured. But that's not why we're recognizing Inky tonight, because it's not for what you've done, Inky, but it's for who you are that we're recognizing you this evening. And Inky's got some really neat characteristics, and the first one I'm going to talk about is her challenging nature. Inky is able to challenge people to excel. And they may not know they've got it in them until she has a conversation with them. And the conversation may be in the form of just an innocent question Inky asks about whether something's possible or whether somebody looked into something yet or whatever the case might be. But regardless of whether your motivation is to not disappoint Inky or to make Inky happy, the results are the same. Things get done and people change who they are for the better because of that interaction. I remember when I was on the board at NeighborWorks, and we had just received notice that our executive director was resigning after a fairly short stint. We'd had him on the board, on staff for only 13 months, and he was leaving, and I had been a committee member working to recruit that person, and my first thought was, oh geez, we've got to do another recruitment process. I was a board member at the time, and when Inky heard that, her first reaction was to turn to me and go, oh no, you'd be perfect for that. I hadn't dreamed of it. And I did a lot of soul searching, and I did a lot of thinking about it, and I applied for that job, and I got that job, where I've been now for 11 years, and it is every day I show up at the office setting a record for longevity of employment. So it's wonderful. Yeah. So so that personal level is that ability to challenge people is fantastic. But that challenging nature also goes to processes. Inky has a naivete about how things work. At least I think it is. I don't think she's that cagey about it. She'll just say, oh, I don't understand the process. How do we get this thing done? Well, she's in a room full of people who know exactly why it can't get done, because Department of Public Works does things this way and the city does this way, and they've always done this way, and it's got to go to this committee that way, and it'll never happen, this year or the next or what have you. And she just cuts through all of that with that question. Well, how do we get this thing done? There's got to be a way. And suddenly people start thinking about how they actually achieve it rather than why we can't achieve something. And that's really a fantastic quality to have. And Inky does a great job with it. She's also really good at restoration. And I don't know if I thought more, I could maybe have a different term, but it's tough doing some of the work we do. I know for city staff it can be really thankless at times. You're trying to get things done, and in the middle of it, some angry person calls you and starts chewing you out for something completely unrelated to what you're working on, and then you go to something else, and then there's a group of people who get to decide whether or not your great idea has any chance of being funded or what have you, and it can be hard. If you're a neighborhood activist and you're trying to get people to show up at a meeting, and it's like the 3rd time this quarter, and you go there and the 2 other people who always show up are there and nobody else comes, and you get really worn out by that. Well, if you are ever like that, try and have a conversation with Inky, because she can, with a word or a comforting touch on your shoulder or just a smile, really encourage you and restore your batteries. She's done it with me more than I can count. Andy was telling me before the meeting tonight a story about an early time when he was just starting at City Hall, and he was terribly nervous that they were going to discover that he was just faking it all along, and he didn't really know what he was doing. He was completely out of his depth, and he doesn't even remember what it was that Inky said to him. But he had a conversation with her, and she said a few kind words, and he went home that night knowing that he could do the job. And that made all the difference for Andy.